Welcome to Empowering Transformative Growth, a podcast about innovators, disruptors, and partnerships that are shaping the future of business. I'm Corey Rice, VP of Strategy at KORTX, and I always look forward to connecting with people who are pushing the boundaries of digital marketing. Today, we're talking with two guests who are on the forefront of our industry. I'd like to welcome Audrey Isrow, as VP of Marketing and Communications at The Roof Resource, and Jess Ostrom, VP of Client Services here at KORTX. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
The Roof Resource is revolutionizing the way that homeowners purchase roofs. The process is transparent, straightforward, and saves customers money. At KORTX, we've been working with the Roof Resource across all things digital marketing, and I know that both of you have been instrumental in driving that partnership since day one, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. To kick things off, could each of you just share a quick introduction and what your role entails on like a day-to-day basis? Audrey, if you want to go.
Oh, geez. My role is really diverse. I oversee all things marketing and communications for the corporate office of the Roof Resource. So any of our branding, logos, design, messaging, social media, our agency relationships, any marketing vendors that we are using or vetting, that's down on the franchise level with their marketing strategy, different tactics to employ, and basically helping them create campaigns outside of the digital that we are doing with KORTX.
Awesome. What about you, Jess?
Very busy.
I'm here to help Audrey. My title, I am VP of Client Services at KORTX. I oversee the basically a program manager for all of our franchise business for Audrey. So her and I work together very closely every single day. My day-to-day has also a very huge range, from, assisting with account management work to assisting on digital strategies and even like helping develop processes internally just to be more efficient. I also work very closely with our product and engineering team just to kind of be that voice of the customer, just to improve our dashboards. So Audrey, if she ever has feedback, for example, on Kampus, that's, it would be great if something like this can, was available. I take it to the engineering team and we could have it done in a sprint or two. So it's really cool. It's a fun part of my job.
Awesome. So today we're recording on a Friday. On a normal Friday, you get to the end of the week, you look back. What would make for a successful week if you could describe it like one sentence? How about you, Audrey?
Just either closing out an initiative we had started or beginning a new one.
Nice.
How about you, Jess?
For me, I'd say for me, just with my role in the hats I wear, if I can make one person's job a little easier each week, I consider it a successful week.
Like that.
Couldn't agree more. Helping others, right?
Yes.
So we have this fantastic partnership between KORTX and the Roof Resource. I'm just curious, how did the partnership start? And, what was kind of the founding point of that from each of your perspective? How about from you, Jess?
For me, so it's funny. I was actually brought in, right when the partnership was starting already. So, but I knew out the gates, like this partnership was going to be something special. I think that our founders, of our companies have a lot in common and they have very similar stories to tell. They both had to start from the ground up in extremely, noisy industries and crowded industries, I should say. The Roof Resource, obviously, they're an emerging brand and, they're really breaking through. You guys are really breaking through the noise and making a name for yourselves in the roofing space. So being part of that and its growth is really cool. And being part of that story is really cool. I'd say, when I first came to the company, or came into this partnership again, it was already we've already started working together. It was all about identifying like which strategies would work the best, building out a playbook for franchisees as they were onboarding. So I'm excited to see, since we're still earlier in our partnership, we're still less than a year in. I'm very curious and excited to see what our conversations are going to look like in a year from now as we evolve our strategies together.
How about you, Audrey? You've been here since the very beginning.
I have, yes. So, we were referred to KORTX from one of our board members. And what was really great and unique for almost unheard of is they're in my backyard. I mostly work remotely from offices in Sterling Heights. So, if I ever really need to, I can go knock on the door and get something done, which is kind of, I haven't had to do that. It's been great. Smooth sailing. It was just a really interesting coincidence. But really from the beginning, everybody's been great at coming up with, let's start with a baseline strategy and make some adjustments from there based on market specific challenges. It's been really, really helpful to have a team that's very responsive and can pivot quickly and also lets me know. It's like they're almost a good checks and balance for me. I don't have time to be everywhere all at once. My hands are in everything every single week and every day. So to have somebody that I can rely on is like, that's not always the case. When you get some of those very, very large agencies, you're just kind of like a number in their chart and you don't
Hmm.
get as much personal attention. But I've really liked the amount of personal attention our accounts get.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, if you need anything, you can just walk to your window and open it right up, and
Yes.
a frisbee's throw away.
It's about half a
But
mile down the road.
obviously, though, you two have a lot of collaboration, right, between the
Mhm.
marketing leadership on your side, Audrey, and just client services in general, Jess, on your end. How does that collaboration get to actual results with the partnership?
I mean, I feel like it's kind of simple. Sorry, I'll go.
Oh, go ahead.
I think, at the end of the day, we're trying to achieve the same goal. So when Audrey and her team and the franchisees and the resource, they succeed, we succeed as well. That's why, we're transparent with everything beyond just digital marketing, just trying to help you guys, like you said, Audrey, to solve any other problems that you're running into, any
Mhm.
roadblocks you're running into. If you're having a creative delay with a graphic designer, might have some options to help you out, or even something like troubleshooting lead flow issues, which is a very common issue that we had to come across. Just being that collaborative. Again, we're trying to achieve the same goal. We want you to succeed. That's why when you're running into a roadblock, it's our roadblock too.
Yeah, and it's been great because there are certain tactics we haven't deployed yet. We started off really basic with just our Google PPC and our social media marketing. And now we're wanting to, expand some of our budgets, grow and use additional tactics and layer on some, let's increase our budget to see where that can scale us and let's add on some additional tactics to see how that helps with our campaigns. So it's been great to just be able to reach out and say, hey, this either corporate or a franchisee is having X, Y, and Z challenges. One of our franchisees is in Southern Texas. So a lot of the social media marketing just gets him job inquiries. It's just a very unique issue for that market. So we were able to pivot and we're adding some additional tactics in to see what the results will be with that. And we're able to shift really, really quickly, which is great.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And it obviously you both have developed a great cadence, right, with the partnership and how things kind of move, week to week and even month to month. What's kind of the operating rhythm of that? Kind of when you think about how a week is laid out or across a month, how does that cadence play out?
I'd say, no matter what, we meet once a month, right?
Mhm.
So at a minimum, and that's our reporting
Right.
call. No matter what, we dedicate a call
Mhm.
to go through the numbers, check in on
Mhm.
individual franchisees, and look at the numbers at an aggregate as well. But in addition to that meeting, we'll typically ad hoc meet a couple times or a few other times throughout the month. I
Yeah.
mean, Audrey's probably sick of me over the last week. We've had so many meetings.
Well, I called you to be clear.
Well,
to
and
be
I
fair.
called you a couple times too. So, but I mean, that's again going back to that collaboration, and we're always there for each other. And in these meetings, we're usually discussing, outside the reporting meeting, anything from like we talked about, any creative strategy, any roadblocks that any other franchisees are running into, pivoting a strategy here and there. Yeah, or even just again, like I said earlier, like helping her troubleshoots, lead flow issues.
Hmm. How about from your perspective, Audrey? Do you feel like you've hit like a good cadence or a rhythm with how just the communication and the meetings and all
Yeah,
of that?
absolutely. And, over the past, it's almost been kind of a unique set of circumstances. We've had a lot of onboarding this year with new franchise groups. We took a little bit of pause for a couple months just to get all the new people that we had up and running rather than grow. And then everyone who is coming on board is ignored. It's like, okay, you're on your own. So we've been taking a lot of time with hand holding and answering questions, and we're having some challenges. One of our franchisees, apparently Tennessee is a very popular travel destination because they were getting a lot of out of state leads from people who were spending some summertime there.
Okay.
And, just like making some adjustments on that, like very out of the ordinary situations. Um, so we're in constant communication, even if we're not having a physical meeting. I'm always emailing that X, Y, and Z is happening. Or, we had an issue with our CallRail integration. And while I understand the importance of all these things and how they work, I'm not the person to fix the back end. And your team helps me with that, which is fantastic. Love that.
Always here to solve problems.
No, that's great. And then within that, I'll ask you, Audrey, is there, if you had to pick one tool or one report within that cadence that like you couldn't live without, right? That's kind of helping drive the partner. Is there one that kind of stands out?
A report?
A tool or a report that you're using on a regular basis that really stands out?
Yeah. So I do go, right now I have Kampus open and I have CallRail and our Google Analytics open, all day, every day. If I restart my computer, I open them back up and I will, go into Kampus and check and see how everything's running. Unfortunately, there's, I don't want to say it's not bad data. I don't want to say that at all. It's sometimes we have customers who they'll fill out a lead form and be like, oh, where did it go? And then they'll do it again. So
Yep.
I will always double check, the website activities. Sometimes it'll show us more leads than we got because people will submit twice. And, I just use it hand in hand and keep an eye on it. And it's like, okay, well, our cost per acquisition was slightly higher because that lead was a duplicate, but no worries, and just make sure everything's running smoothly. I love the way your dashboard works, and I use that every single day.
Fantastic to hear. We
It's
love
nice
it.
to have everything kind of in one place.
Yes.
Absolutely. And
Great.
Jess, how about on your end?
I'd agree. For me personally, obviously, Campus will dashboard. That dashboard I love because even when you're in like certain platforms, it's very difficult to look at data from an aggregate perspective because you're looking at like you're all on their own, siloed account. So being able to have a roll-up report of all markets, like that's something that was fun to work on with our dev team, but it's to see it come to fruition is been one of my favorite reports to look at. So I'd say the same
helps
thing.
because that way we can
It
see.
definitely helps. Yes. And like you said, there's, when it comes to the different metrics that are in there, like you said, someone might accidentally submit the lead twice. And these are pixel fires, not necessarily full blown leads like that would pull into, your backend systems. Someone might refresh their page and the pixel fired again. So it's always good, working with Audrey on those checks and balances to see like, okay, we have our data. What does your data look like?
Yeah, and it's not wildly different. It's just occasionally, I would say multiple times a month, we have people submit a lead twice because they just didn't think it went through or it just disappeared and took them to a new page. And they're like, well, wait a minute. I wasn't expecting that. And so they go back and do it again.
That's human behavior.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm sure people appreciate there's two checks and balances in place, it sounds like, right? Because then, reducing that margin of error even more based on things that might just happen inadvertently from the customer. But, Audrey, I'm curious, obviously roofing is incredibly, crowded industry, so many options for consumers and when they're, entering into that market. What has helped the roof resource stand out in that industry, and how do you connect with customers and build that trust?
Well, as far as standing out, we have a very well thought out. If you even knew the amount of time that we have spent on our customer proposal and sales training, everything from the intake call to the actual presentation of the proposal to the way that the proposal educates homeowners based on how we are different. Because we have a major differentiator. There's a lot of roofing companies. It's like, oh, I'm an Owens Corning Platinum installer and I have been in business for 20 years and I have, hundreds of 5-star reviews, if not thousands. That's great, but our process is completely different. It's set up for the homeowner in mind. So they've already kind of seen that when they've submitted a lead form and gotten a phone call in a 2-hour sales call in their house for us to even give them a price. And then crossing things off and playing numbers games. It's like our first price is our best price unless you are picking a different shingle that's slightly less expensive, but it has nothing to do with numbers games. So it's mostly like an education process that has differentiated us from other roofing companies. Outside of digital, I am a very strong proponent of content integrations. Anything that you can be part of the story. There's a lot of markets who have like the live and local in-show infomercial, if you will, where it's like a live interview. The Detroit market has a couple different solutions. One has its own studio and dedicated hour Monday through Friday. Some other markets have multiple options for that. I'm a really big proponent of that. TV's a tricky medium. I started my my career in television. And, if you would have told me back then that no one watches TV anymore, and certainly not live TV, and I never would have believed you. So, you need other options, but people still do watch it. And the good thing is a lot of those shows have a digital home for their integrations where it will also go on their website and it will go on their landing page and live there on their YouTube page and on their social media. So you have kind of this digital footprint of your content integration to help build trust. It's like, oh, this is a real company. Here they are telling their story. So I find that to be really helpful to be a good companion for digital campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just ask, anybody who's watching or listening that might need roofing services, right? If you were to give the elevator pitch, you mentioned it, what makes Roof Resource, different? What's the value proposition?
Well, okay. So basically, we do roofing for a flat fee. So we do not charge markups on labor, material, dumpster permits, attic inspection. In fact, our franchisees, and if it's a corporate job, we shoulder the cost of the attic inspection. The customer does not pay for that.
Yeah.
That comes out of our flat fee. So that's not even our full profit center because our expenses come out of that flat fee. But the price for their labor is a pre-negotiated rate based on like the average for the market. And in some markets that are more rural and there's a lot of drive time, like that labor rate might be a little bit higher because it includes drive time. In other markets, it's lower because there's a lot of labor available and they just want to be busy. The cost of materials, we have a national account with SRS. So we get like best pricing. We pass that cost along to our customers. And not to sound cheesy, but like I believed in it so much, my husband bought a franchise and is now a franchisor. So
Amazing.
Yes. So
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, completely transparent.
completely
Totally
transparent.
as easy as it could be.
Yeah. So like a small bungalow / small ranch with either no garage or small garage, like those people will save $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. But some of the big houses that are more complex, like we've seen up to $20,000 to $40,000 in savings from some of those, as seen on TV, roofing companies that you know they put their names on sports sponsorships, and you always have them in your mailbox, and they have branded trucks driving all over town. So we have to be a little more strategic to keep our ad spend within the parameters of our flat fee. But, you know, what we're doing is doing a lot of like grassroots growth in addition to our marketing. So I tell all of our franchisees, like, this business is going to be a combination of your money and your time. And you just have to find that healthy balance, you know, to do the volume that you need to be successful, but not breaking the bank because we don't have a profit margin that a retail roofing company does in each sale.
Yeah, that's awesome. And anybody who just takes 2 minutes to look at the reviews and the reputation of the roof resource will see that customers appreciate that process start to finish. I mean, I think anybody who goes into that, Jess, I don't know if you've gotten a new roof. We had to 10 years ago. And for people who don't know anything about it, you're like, okay, I hope you're telling me something
You just
that's
know it's
honest
going to be
and
expensive.
truthful. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we actually, when we had our roof replaced, it was probably like 6 years ago now at our old house, but we had 2 different roofing companies come, and the difference in pricing between those two was astronomical. It was crazy. But you're right. They both had to come into our home, and they were there for the one that we went with. That was the cheaper one of the 2. He was like, no BS, just was quick to like being like, here's the cost, nothing crazy here. And the other guy that was more expensive was like, well, I'm only gonna give you this deal if you sign right now. Like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that.
That's a game.
That's like a pressure sale as you're going into like one of the biggest things.
Yes, we were not very, I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to work with you just because of that. But I mean, Audrey, I just want to call out one thing. You kind of touched on it, but the convenience factor that you guys promote too, I think is key. So when I had my roof replaced, we had to wait, I think it was 4 months from the time that we had first got our quote at the time. I mean, again, this was, you know, again, like 6 years ago about. So the fact that like you guys, you know, advertise, you know, a quote within 24 hours, you don't have to come to their house. And you can have a new roof in a matter of days.
Yeah, that's 7 to 10 days, we say, installed. I mean, I think the only outlier for that would be if you're ordering like very specific custom designer shingle that's not readily available, and we have a little bit of time and delivery. But other than that, installed within 7 to 10 days. You know, we are not sitting in your living room for hours. You know, we call it like a concierge service almost, where it's taking time that you would have wasted sitting there with a salesperson for hours where they're playing games. It's like, this is just straightforward. You tell us what premium shingle you'd like. We will give you absolute best pricing for that first thing. Answer all your questions, but this could take as little as 5 minutes, or, you know, as long as you need for us to answer all of your questions. It doesn't have to be hours long, and you don't have to have me in your home or any of our franchisees in your home. It's just a really fast and easy service.
No, that's great. And Audrey, you mentioned franchisees. That's a great segue. What are some of the qualities that you see from the highest performing franchisees that the Roof Resource has?
Yeah, so we have a lot of entrepreneurs who have owned other businesses in the past, and the ones who have fully just gone all in, you know, like my husband left corporate America, you know, it's like I've seen a few of our other franchisees doing that. They are hitting the ground running with their B2B relationships. So, with roofing, there is a lot of property managers. We can do apartment complexes, we can do condos, we can do assisted living, we can do commercial as long as it's not, flat roof. We just need to get out there and develop those relationships in the beginning, and then we have what's called our affinity program. So you can partner with local schools or sports teams and give them a percentage of the flat fee for each sale that they generate. There's a lot of companies that have done, or I shouldn't say a lot of companies. My CEO formally did this in his past corporate life. When he worked for Wide Open West Cable, they had like a kind of give back program, like Jess, your mom. The school is always saying, "Oh, it's family night at this local place. Everyone come and we're giving 10%, or they're giving 10% back to the school." And it's like, okay, well, even if they sell $1,000 worth of ice cream cones, that's only $100 they made for the school.
Yep.
So we have a program set up that we've made available to all the franchisees. They can do some grassroots goodwill marketing, and it goes in like school newsletters, emails on the social page, flyer in the kids' backpack on Friday. So the franchisees who are implementing some of these grassroots programs, it is time consuming, but even if you just do one and add another one in 2 weeks or a month, it's the snowball effect. So those who have really dove in, I tell all of them, you don't need to be an expert marketer. You don't even need to know what this stuff means in the beginning. I started in television, radio, and cable, and then, learning digital, it's like learning a new language at first. It's like,
Oh yeah.
I don't
You're doing
expect you. Right.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And saying that, like, a lot of franchisees are, they're getting into the space for the first time. They're not marketers by trade. And just, I know you work with a lot of franchisees from a marketing perspective. Are there any, I guess, like missteps that potential franchisees may be listening or watching, or just for future reference, like that they want to avoid with their marketing?
Say either, it's going to sound kind of funny, but I'd say either not spending enough on their marketing or even spending too much. I'd say both situations can cause you to go under too soon.
Right.
Before any market launch, I know Audrey knows this, but we'll typically analyze the area just to ensure that the spend makes sense. See, $5,000 is a lot of money to individual franchisees, but it can be small in comparison to like a larger company in a larger market. So just ensuring that, the marketing dollars counts is going to be key. That's why we ask questions as we go into each franchisee strategy. What zip codes in your market are you seeing, or do you anticipate the most success? And we start start hone in and then branch out, rather than branching out and honing in. Because I think too often, they have this market area, they start branching out, and then they almost spread themselves too thin within their current budget versus very specific areas that they would anticipate the most success.
Yeah. And I know having that upfront research is really important, right? Because regardless of how large your territory is, there's going to be hand raisers that are immediately ready to generate a lead, be potential customers, versus some you may have to prospect and nurture them through that process, which takes more budget and a little bit longer. Casting that net, like you said, Jess, and focusing on where that opportunity is obviously really important. And I guess from either of your perspectives, are there any non-negotiables if you have, a new franchise, let's say, that's opening in 90 days and you're trying to get them as prepared as possible? Any non-negotiables that you would recommend?
Let me go first. There's a few. I mean, we kind of already touched on one. I'd say community engagement. That's not just like the 0 to 90 days. That's constant. Audrey, like I said, you hit home with this. My son's little league team was named after a irrigation company, and that's what they were called. And I'm telling you right now, if we need irrigation, I know who to call. So that community engagement is so key to just increasing that brand recognition. So I know they're trustworthy, and because I know the name, I recognize that name. So, and that complements and enhances the paid media efforts. So when I am getting served a social ad, or when I get that paid search ad, I recognize that name and I'm more apt to engage and inquire. Outside of that, I'd say before a franchisee opens, before you even launch, the technical, I'm techie sometimes, but I'd say the technical infrastructure is extremely important. So making sure that we're in place on site, that we have the right access in place. Like, I'd say that is extremely important. I was going to say one other thing that's escaping me right now. Well, also I would actually say in that 0 to 90 day period, this is also a key learning phase for system algorithms too. So again, I'm getting a little more on the technical side, but when you're running like a paid search or a programmatic or a social campaign, those first 90 days are really like key learning phases as well, for just digitally.
Right.
Yeah. How about from your perspective on?
Yeah. So when they are getting ready to launch, when they're at training, we make sure that their website is up so Google can start crawling those pages. The one thing that I see that over the past couple of years, clients really discount their local SEO. Like they don't really see it working for them right away. They just see it as a bill that they are getting. And they're like, well, that's not doing anything for me and I don't want to pay for it. And it's like, that is a long game, my friends. You do not want to cancel that. Keep it going. And I said, yes, there's Google PPC that is pay to play. Like this helps you not have to pay to play as much later if you are really investing in that. So that is something that is almost like a non-negotiable. Like, let's really hit this hard. Social media, I recommend, there's a lot of people who are not savvy on social media. Meta can be problematic, but I'm not going to go into that. Some of the community pages, like once you get your profile built out and start posting about yourself, I made contact cards that puts a name and a face to each franchisee where it's like, I own this territory. I am local to the area. So I never want people to see, oh, that's a national roofing company. We're not going to use them. I want to find someone local. Well, it's like, no, they're a local. These are real people. So going out and introducing themselves that way, I hit that really, really hard with the roof resource and the area we live, and it was really successful. We got a lot of what I call the low cost, the low to no cost leads, the one that only costs your time. And your time's your most valuable resource because you can always make more money, but then your time is gone. So you have to find that balance of how much time you want to invest in something. But those are the leads that you just got a few minutes typing in and putting a post on a community page.
And Audrey, you mentioned leads. I want to talk a little bit about, when it comes to optimization. I know sometimes there can be some confusion, let's say, between what's considered a qualified opportunity versus what's considered a lead. How do each of you define that? And how does that change how you might approach, that lead or even how it, affects a campaign?
And then, I know, Audrey, this is going to be a little bit more in your purview, but for me, from a perspective, looking at digital marketing, obviously we already talked about how you and I will have conversations around which leads are actual leads that have come through and which ones are just additional pixel fires.
Right.
To the original question, I'd say, a qualified opportunity is obviously someone who is looking for a roof replacement. But even those that are looking for, because I know sometimes you might get, a repair lead that comes in.
Yeah,
I would probably still bucket
those
that
are still qualified.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't treat them any different. I know you guys do repairs, but you still do. Like a repair can be just as costly.
Sometimes it's better. You're better off just replacing it because sometimes the repair can be indicative of like, this is starting to fail. So you can either pay a couple $1,000s now, or it's almost like a used car when they start to act up, like you just know it's going to become a money pit. So beware. The roof can be the same thing. If you're starting to see it fail, hey, if you have something that happened, some friends of mine just had an animal situation, not quite sure what kind of animal, but dug a little hole in their roof like that. Obviously, you can't anticipate that. But anything outside of that, any repair leads that we get, oftentimes those do turn into a sale, so we don't want to discount them. Sometimes they don't. One of my neighbors had an HVAC service leave their roof exposed where it was leaking because they didn't seal it properly. So that's just a repair, and that's fine. We can help clients get that serviced, with our same low rate. It doesn't include a flat fee. It's just the cost of the repair with the installers. But, hey, we're not going to price gouge there either. So they can come to us and then tell a friend. Like we find referrals to be very powerful. I just sent a reward yesterday. We have a reward program for our customers who refer a friend or family member, and that becomes a completed sale. So they get rewarded with a gift card of their choice.
Well, that's great.
Those are really powerful because this girl asked me, I'm sorry, I say girl. This woman just asked me for a Delta gift card because I said, hey, what's the most easy is I can just email you from any site. You tell me. And she's like, I'd really love a Delta gift card. Like, done. Now she's psyched because she's going on vacation and we paid for part of it. So
there you go. Doesn't get much better than that. And from your perspective, Audrey, when you take a step back and you look at that funnel, right, the customer funnel that you see on the side from the roof resource, where in that process do leads often stall, where you have to really pay attention to moving customers to that next phase?
Sometimes it's it's often, if not always, the consideration process. So sometimes when a customer has called and we've done an intake call, like I've heard my husband's intake calls at times, and people call and they ask a lot of questions. And then some people are more trusting and they're like, okay, I get it. We get what you do. This is your brand, like your core brand values and who you are. You're not coming to making me sit through this. You're not going to play numbers games. And other people are like, well, I really want to meet with someone. And we can do that. We can send out someone to the home and meet with you. It's not going to be 3 hours. It's not going to be high pressure. But there are times where we've had customers say, well, I don't know. You never came out to my house. So how do I know I can trust you in this? And then we just have to re-educate a little bit more because people aren't used to this. In the beginning, we had an example of like people are now buying like giant furniture pieces from Wayfair. Like before we would walk into the furniture showroom and shop around and look, touch, feel. And then, I've done it. I've ordered some stuff out there. You're just trusting bigger purchases online now. Some of it's convenience and some of it's just, we are a digital world and people are getting more used to that. As far as the consideration process, there are so many choices out there in grouping. People almost always get more than one estimate. And sometimes it's because they're like, well, I don't know. Let me see what else is out there. 90% of the time or more, they're getting cases that they're getting a lower estimate. It's because they're not getting a full brand name system, which will void your warranty. And most people don't know that. And then we've had other clients say, well, why do you need to do a tear off? This company said they didn't have to. And it's like, there are many reasons why you shouldn't shingle over your existing roof. A, it will void your warranty. B, the weight of all those shingles on your home is not meant to sustain all of that weight. So, and then if that starts to fail underneath and you have something on top of it, like just the integrity of your roof is not going to be great.
Yeah, and
Anyway.
that's the example of the expertise that they need, right? Is understanding that. And I guess just from your perspective, when you're looking at the campaign data and the performance data in that lead funnel, are you seeing the same thing, kind of that opportunity at the mid-funnel consideration stage?
Yeah, the mid-funnel consideration stage, I'd say that's where it's the name recognition stage, but that's the way I look at it. They recognize a name, they recognize that trusted name, and that's where, but at the same time, in that mid-funnel stage, that's where they're shopping around too, so they might run into those issues. And so that's probably the same area that we see the biggest stalls, even in any full funnel approach when it comes to marketing in general. They move down the funnel. There's a reason why it's called a funnel, because people drop off it as they are in that consideration process.
Absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about creative. So I know one of the challenges can be that, you have the brand, you have the Roof Resource brand that needs consistency and that the customers will always see, but then you also want to be able to localize the creative experience for customers in specific markets. How does that process work? Like, how are you personalizing creative so that, a customer can see in their market with their local content, but still maintain that consistency of the Roof Resource brand?
Yeah, most of it's just trying to use local images. It's more challenging in the very beginning because we don't have any installs right away. It's fine. We started in the Midwest, so our franchisees who were in Ohio, the landscape is the same. Homes look very, very similar. So it's not night and day difference. But when we're talking about Texas and Idaho and Montana, landscape totally different.
Yeah.
Night and day difference, Florida, night and day difference. So just localizing it with some images that will look familiar and it looks like, okay, you are from here, you are servicing here. You're not just like a Midwest company. So that we find we've also done let's try to do some play on words for local areas, whether it's something that's like a sports team, not logo, but tagline, let's take some local taglines and try to incorporate that into the messaging and some of our print and social.
Well, that's great. And then I guess just from your side, do you typically see that some sort of personalization or even a dynamic element is going to outperform, let's say, more of a generic creative approach?
Oh yeah, especially obviously with Roof Resource, you want it to be that localized feel. Like, yes, there's the corporate element, but it is still, like Audrey, you said, these are families that are right there owning this franchise in these communities. So you want it to have that community feel. And you want obviously to keep it scalable though across all these franchisees and brand consistency for you as well. So we activate what's called in programmatic, especially it's called DCO. So some people are familiar with it. It's dynamic creative optimization. This is where the ad itself is pretty much the same, but certain elements of it, like the phone number, the image, the location, the click-through URL, those change based on the user's location to the closest franchisee in that area. So
Right.
they're closest to, for example, Austin, Texas, they get Austin information in their ad. So it's a really cool way to, again, stay locally relevant, but still have that brand consistency across the nation.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm also trying to use like local phone numbers now instead of just using our
Yep.
toll-free number. It's like, again, I don't want people to think we're just a national brand and not a local company. They are supporting a local business if they use the roof resource. So just even using a local number, even if it does ring through to our call center to take the intake call, it's like that's an area code that's familiar to them. Like I find that encourages conversion.
Yeah, all those little details where once they add up, that's when someone starts to notice, like, hey, wait a minute,
Right.
there's no palm trees in Metro Detroit. Like, why am I seeing ads that in there, right? Or yeah, a zip code from the other side of the country. And I guess that's probably going back to the reputation. One of the reasons why the reputation is fantastic for the roof resource. And I was curious, Audrey, from your perspective, what's the playbook for reviews and reputation? Like when do you ask for that, that feedback? How is it gathered? How do you respond? Like, what does that look like from your perspective?
Yeah, we are asking for that review the moment that we are kind of reconciling their account. They pay for the labor upon completion of their roof. So, when they're ready to, okay, this is done, everything is cleaned up, photos are taken to prove we didn't damage the property, it's left exactly as it was before. We are asking for that review at the point of delight, the point where they are done with us and we have given them a gorgeous new roof and everything went well. That's when we're asking for the review.
Yeah, and with that shot where they're standing on the front lawn, all with putting the sign in, right, where they're just finished and everyone's happy
Right.
with it. And then how does that factor into LSAs, local service ads for Google? Is there, you see that correlation between the strong reviews and the performance?
Right.
Yeah. So I can take that one a little bit more. So they are directly correlated. A lot of these, the franchisees, they're newer to the game. So getting those initial reviews are not necessarily difficult, I would say, because you're trying to get these jobs in, but at the same time, you're battling consumers who are choosing between a 4.8 star 500 reviews versus a 5-star 1 review. So
Right.
what are they going to choose? For me, as I'm shopping on Amazon, I'm going to choose the one that's 4.8 stars with a lot of people that purchased it, and I'm going to read through their reviews. So very difficult, and like that's why Audrey and I also tend to talk to franchisees about getting what are called character reviews, just to help kind of boost a little bit of those reviews, just to get them in there. Because in order to show for LSA or local service ads, which are those they're local, just for everyone on the podcast, local service ads are basically verified ads by Google or verified company or Google verified companies. So you have reviews, you have this reputation built. They're going to pick you to the top of the list. So the more reviews you have, the more favorable you are into those Google LSA listings. You can't even activate LSA until you reach a certain number of reviews, which is why we put the reviews so much.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so I want to bring it back around now. So we talked about it's on a Friday, you're looking back at a great week. Now we'll fast forward to a Monday. You come in, you sit down, you're getting ready to start the week. What are the 3 metrics that each of you look at to give you kind of a little view into what the week is going to look like? You sit down, you're starting your week. Audrey, from your perspective, what are the 3 metrics that are most important to you when you're kicking things off?
Well, I mean, I'm always taking a look at all the leads that came in the previous week and over the weekend. And I go into our CRM and see how many of these have they made contact with? How many have they scheduled a call with? And just kind of going in to see the flow of what happened the week before, take a look at what the ad spend was and what the delivery and the number of impressions we got with our digital campaigns. Some weeks I know we have, I think next week we have a shared mail campaign hitting in multiple territories. So excited to see how that's going to happen. I go into CallRail and check how many calls we're getting from that, but that's generally not first thing Monday morning. And then just hope and pray that my calendar doesn't get filled up, but then it always does.
Which, yeah, same boat. I guess it's not a bad problem to have, but I hear you. It's like the first thing is you see that full calendar stretching out.
It usually isn't terrible at the beginning of the week, and I'll say, okay, yeah, wow, Thursday's open, and then all of a sudden it's not.
Open till it isn't.
It's open
How
till
about you, Jess?
Kind of the same thing. I would say I look at the emails And my emails are one of the first things I look at. It's not a metric, but I look maybe my number of emails. I'm looking at meetings, not just my meetings, but I look at some of my team meetings as to see where, if one of our team members, his name is Tim, he works with a lot of the Roof Resource franchisees, see which Roof Resource franchisees he's meeting with for the week and say what kind I can help him out with. So like little tidbits of insights that we can bring to the table. And that I also look at for me personally, just like I oversee, like I said, the account management department. We have a CSAT score that we collect from those who are logging into our platform. So that's one of the things I look at every single week. Maybe not every single Monday. It might be on a Tuesday, but it is something I look at no matter what weekly.
And sorry, what's CSAT?
CSAT. Oh, that's a customer satisfaction score. Sorry, I'm so used to everyone knowing what CSAT.
Yeah, that's the one thing I tell every franchisee about this business. I'm like, all of the acronyms will ruin your life because you will not remember what they all are.
Yep, they just become second nature.
So yeah, I look at the CSAT score, and then I also typically look at, the roll-up reports for the different franchisors that we're working with. So I'll look at, the Roof Resource, I'll go into the roll-up report, see what the trends look like over the last week.
Excellent. And then you're thinking about all those metrics that hopefully rolling up to success. Audrey, almost like a little mini case study or an example you have where there's maybe an underperforming market or an opportunity for something that maybe changed and improved? Do you have an example of that you can share?
Yeah. So we had previously we had an owner operator for our Austin market. They were out of state. They were very interested in the area and they wanted to move there, but they weren't boots on the ground. They didn't live there. So we found, we were also using a different vendor in that time, and we were using a different mix than we currently are. And just having somebody in market, building relationships, doing all of the community and just the B2B engagement and building his business and making those introductions and humanizing, like, hey, we are a local owner and I live here in your community to serve you. That was like a night and day difference based on the amount of success he had versus somebody who was running it from their out of state office.
Mm-hmm.
That franchisee, we ended up transitioning their territory to where they lived because we're like, maybe this isn't the best idea for you because it is so difficult. Like, they just found they were missing opportunities because some of the local, I feel like, oh, you own a roofing company? I need a roof. And they're like, it's in Texas. So they're like, gosh, these are missed opportunities. We should really be doing this here.
Yeah, no, I mean, hearing things like that, obviously there's always going to be opportunities to make things better, but it's being able to identify them and act on them that makes all the difference. Right. So just kind of wrapping things up here, I know obviously you're all very passionate about what we do. It's fun to be that way within marketing. What are some of the favorite parts of the job for each of you that I guess just keep things interesting day out and day in? I guess, Jess, you can start if you want.
There's a lot that I like about my job, so it's hard to pinpoint an exact favorite. I love, working with Audrey, working with people in general, just meeting everyone. It's just like, it goes beyond just like our day-to-day execution. Like, we get to know each other. We both know we're moms. We talk about other things. We just like catch up. I'm like, that's a big part of why I love what I do every day. But also the other part of it, and this is going to sound a little strange for this call, but I really enjoy like seeing ideas and feedback come to life within like our like reporting platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll have like an idea of like, oh, this is so cool if we had like a geo heat map in there that shows where all of our conversions are coming from. I feel like all clients would really enjoy that. Yeah. And worked with the team to get it done and seeing it come out. It's like, I know I mentioned this already, but like the excitement for me, of course, is like, I'm a little biased, but then seeing excitement from, Audrey and other franchises.
Yeah, we just went through that.
Oh my gosh.
I love this.
I love that they were part of my job.
Nice. How about you, Audrey?
Yeah, I mean, my job is nothing but variety. I really like that. And it kind of takes into account all of the things that I like to do. When I was a media buyer back in the day, like, your job is all math because I worked with Food Network and I worked with, USA, and we'd sometimes go to lunches and meet the talent. And it's like, no, I'm 90% of the day in spreadsheets.
Crunching numbers
And seeing delivery of the campaigns and putting together reports for clients. And that's, I'm still putting together schedules. Like, I love doing that. And I'm still, making recommendations and doing campaigns. But now I have I'm not a graphic designer, but I kind of mock things up and send them to my graphic designer. And I'm just good enough where I can do some things in Canva for, just for social. Mm-hmm. I'm not putting it out for anything that anybody's paying for, but, just some of the things that I can create. And it, it gives you a lot of variety in your day. And then I love, I'm dealing with so many different people every single day. We have people from all over the country that we've met. and work with now. And I love that part of the job. You get a good rapport with some of your vendors and you get like a little bit of personal relationship. Like that's really great about this business.
Awesome. Love it. Well, we'll bring it down to our end of our discussion here. I guess I just ask you both in closing, if you had to describe the partnership that KORTX and the Roof Resource has together in just, a couple of words, how would you describe it? How about you, Jess?
If I had to do it in one word or short phrase, I would say collaborative. I would say collaborative. That would be the word.
Mine.
Can I steal it? I'm so sorry.
I was literally going to say that because it has been a lot of collaboration and it's been me coming for recommendations and it's like, okay, well, I have this, and this in mind, but what do you recommend based on your data? Because I don't have all the research tools that you do. We personally don't subscribe to all those. And that's a reason why a business uses an agency, because you're doing this for multiple clients and you have the resources to subscribe to some of these tools. It's almost cost prohibitive for us to do so in some manner. So we can lean on you for better recommendations.
Excellent. Well, listen, thank you both so much for your time today. It's been another episode of Empowering Transformative Growth, and we will see you all next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.